The payment had ended a few months earlier, and the silence in the monthly budget felt earned. Nothing dramatic happened at first. The car still started every morning. It carried groceries, work bags, kids in the back seat. It looked responsible to keep it. There was a sense of having done something right, of not rushing into another obligation. At work, expenses were steady. Rent had gone up once, then stayed flat. Health insurance premiums ticked higher, but slowly. The car, though, became the thing that stayed constant, the familiar object that didn't demand a line item every month. It was easy to forget it as a cost at all. The first repair came quietly. A warning light, a short visit, a bill that was annoying but manageable. It didn't change anything. It didn't require a conversation at home. It just got paid. The logic was simple, still cheaper than a monthly payment, still the sensible choice. Over time, those visits became more frequent. Tires wore faster than expected. Something electrical failed. A part that had lasted years finally didn't. None of it felt like a crisis. Each issue arrived separately, spaced out enough to feel unrelated. The car was older, yes, but familiar. It still made sense to keep it going. What changed was how the expenses landed. Repairs never aligned with paydays. They appeared between obligations, next to school fees, alongside medical copays, during months when something else had already gone slightly off plan. The amounts weren't catastrophic, they were just unpredictable. They asked for attention at inconvenient times. The household budget adapted without discussion. Less money moved into savings that month. A weekend plan quietly disappeared. A small credit balance carried over, then paid down again. It wasn't debt in the way people usually talk about debt. It was friction. As the car aged, so did the mental calculation. Every new sound became something to listen for. Every longer drive came with a small pause beforehand. There was no fear, exactly, just awareness. The car was no longer invisible. It occupied space in the back of the mind. Maintenance records started to pile up. Receipts stayed in the glove compartment longer than they should have. The total amount spent over a year was higher than expected, but it never arrived all at once. Looking back required adding numbers that were never added at the time. At work, responsibilities shifted. A promotion brought a higher income, but also longer hours. Flexibility narrowed. Unexpected time off for repairs became harder to absorb. The car wasn't failing dramatically. It was aging normally. The household just had less room to absorb normal things. There were months when nothing happened at all. Those months reinforced the decision. They made the prior expenses feel like exceptions. The car sat there, paid off, doing its job. It continued to look like the practical choice from the outside. But over the years, the rhythm changed. Repairs became part of the annual pattern, like insurance renewals or tax filings. Not predictable in timing, but predictable in existence. Money was no longer being planned for them. It was being recovered afterward. The idea of replacing the car surfaced occasionally, usually after a larger bill. Then it faded again. The current arrangement still worked. The car still ran. The numbers still added up, depending on how they were counted. What didn't show up in those numbers was the way uncertainty crept into ordinary decisions. A longer commute route avoided, a road trip reconsidered. Not avoided entirely, just adjusted. The car wasn't unreliable enough to replace, but not solid enough to forget. Years passed this way. The car stayed. The payments never returned. But the sense of relief that came with being done with it slowly changed shape. It wasn't relief anymore. It was familiarity mixed with vigilance. Nothing broke all at once. Nothing forced a decision. The costs had already happened, spread thinly enough to blend into normal life. From the outside, it still looked like a responsible choice that had worked out. Inside the household budget, it had quietly become something else. Not a mistake, not a failure, just a long series of small outcomes that never showed up as a single number and never asked to be named.